Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm just gonna come right out and say it. I dropped the ball. I was looking back at my YouTube channel for the past couple of months and I realized I have not posted a wrap-up since March, which is criminal. So instead of like making their own videos, we're gonna do a rapid fire review of all the books that I've read since March. I actually haven't counted how many I've read, so allow me to do that real quick. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 18, 14, 15, 16, 32, 39. Okay, so there's 39, give or take, because I did start some, I've DNF'd some, so I'm not gonna count all of them like as strictly I've read, but I have started at least 40 books since March. So we're gonna go into them really quickly. I'm not gonna like break these up by month. The only month that I will break up is July. I have it in a nice pretty pile over here. Hey, editing Jolie here, just to say that this is not my most coherent video, okay? I thought I was giving well thought out thoughts. Turns out I was not. Found out the next day after filming this video that we had been breathing in black mold for at least 6 months. And my health has taken a drastic turn in the last 6 months. So I had a real bad bout of brain fog while filming this video, and looking at it back, it's not great, okay? But I still wanted to put it out. So just wanted to we'll be back to normal soon, okay? We have since moved out of said apartment, so don't you worry. So I guess we'll do that and we'll work backwards, okay? So let's talk about July's books that I read. This month was a little bit of a lighter month for me just because there was a lot going on. I don't think I read a whole lot. I know I didn't read a whole lot, and I was also in a reading slump. So that's kind of what was going on there. In no particular order as well, we have first The Island by Natasha Preston. This book made me remember why I really just generally do not read Natasha Preston books. I feel like they're good when you're like in high school or you're just starting to get into reading or just starting to get into thrillers or whatnot, because they do keep you like generally entertained. But as someone who reads thrillers often and is very, I wouldn't say like a professional in the genre by any means, but like I've read my fair share and I know what I do and I don't like, and I've been reading them for a while. Natasha Preston is not one of my favorite authors for that genre. This book specifically is following a group of influencers that get invited to this like island in order to promote it. So they're like, no one's on this island except for like the owner and the people that are working, and people end up dying. And so then it becomes this like murder mystery, like get away from the killer or whatnot. It was like generally enjoyable, but at the same time, I really did not have too much fun with it. I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like it's written for high schoolers, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not my brand of thriller, I guess, if that makes sense. So am I happy that I read it? I guess it answered a question, which is like, am I a Natasha Preston fan? And that's no. It didn't really do anything else. I would recommend it though, if you are A, in high school wanting to get into thrillers, or B, if you're just wanting to get into like an easy kind of like fun, easy to read type thriller. That's kind of what I would brand her books as. Honestly though, I think you're probably better off reading Frida McFadden, I guess, if that makes sense. Like that to me just seems like a better version of that, if that's the criteria that you're looking for. So I think I rated this book like a 2 or 3 star. Then I read Promise Me Not by Megan Brandy, and to be honest with you, I did not really have as much fun with this book as I was hoping. This is the second book after Say You Swear, which I did really love Say You Swear. And this book I read like 2 years after that, and it just was not, I didn't love it. Like I didn't really care about any of the characters. I listened to it, I read it physically, and in neither way did I really enjoy it. I'd probably give it like a 3 star. Like there wasn't anything specifically wrong with the book. It didn't really hit, I guess, if that makes sense. You're following this girl who is a single mom, and she's a part of this like friend group. I don't even remember much about the book, to be so honest with you. Like that's how not memorable it was. I could tell you so much about Say You Swear. Virtually nothing about this book. Also, it was so hard to believe that these people were still in college. Like they acted like they were way older, which I guess in the situation, like what happened with the main characters, like that would make sense, but like it just didn't necessarily, and I guess you could say the same thing about Say You Swear. Like though that did not necessarily feel like a college romance to me. It felt like they were older. And like me, when I was in college, I thought that I was like so old. I thought I was an adult. No, I was a child. So there's that. Then I also read The Butcher and the Wren by Elena. Okay, someone told me how to say her name. It's Urquhart. I don't remember. Anyways, I actually really enjoyed this book. It was giving Dexter in the best way. So you're following this police officer and she's on the case for this like serial killer dude, and you actually get the dude's POV, and it's the most terrifying, most like just anxiety inducing kind of POV ever. Just the way that he like dehumanizes people, which is obviously like a thing. They have to dehumanize people in order to carry out these acts. But then like you just get a detailed descriptions about like how he feels about these people, and it just is genuinely so frightening. And I would absolutely recommend it. I feel like if anything, this book was a little too short for me. Like I wanted more, but I will say the fact that she was able, I think this book was less than 250 pages. It is. It's less than 250 pages, which as a thriller is so, I feel like so difficult to do, but if you can do it and pull it off, it makes it so good. So I would probably rate this now at like a 4-star. I had so much fun with it. Well, fun is an odd way to put it, but like it was good. It was good for my thriller girlies. If you liked Dexter, I feel like, which, okay, I'm saying Dexter, and I don't mean in the way that like he's a vigilante type deal, like he's trying to get the bad guys. That's not what it is. It's just the way that like his POV comes across. It feels like the inner monologue of Dexter. That's kind of what I mean when I say that. I feel like I needed to put that out there. Next we have Killjoy by Holly Jackson. I read this in my readathon just to kind of like, I wanted to read about Pip again because I really actually liked her character, and 2, I just wanted something quick and easy to get through. I enjoyed it. I'd probably rate it like a 3-star. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It was just like, obviously it wasn't necessarily necessary. It felt like a little cash grabby because it just like, the only way you would be able to tell that it was Pip was because 1, her name was on it, and 2, she was like good at sleuthing. It's just about this like dinner party, and it's like this murder mystery dinner party that her friends put on. It's nothing too crazy. Like it's a fun, like lighthearted book. Nothing beyond that. Would I recommend it? Like if you really, really like Pip, yes. If you're wanting like the actual Good Girl's Guide to Murder experience, no, because it's really not like that. But it's a good, quick, fun read, so I can't be mad at it, I guess is what I'm saying. And I also read The Cousins by Karen M. McManus, and this reignited, I can't even say reignited, this saved Karen M. McManus for me, because I read Everyone Is Lying, and I'll give my review for that because it's also in this huge stack. Didn't love it. I did not love Everyone Here Is Lying, whatever that book is. One of Us Is Lying. My brain. Did not love that book. Was not sure if I was going to enjoy this book, but I had already owned it, and so I had heard that her books, like I knew her books were, I don't want to say fast-paced, because One of Us Is Lying to me was not necessarily fast-paced. It was just like, you're getting all these secrets from all these different kids. It's about this like group of teenagers. They're all cousins, and they go to meet their grandmother, and she's like the super rich woman, whatever, but she's sick, and they end up getting invited to go stay in her resort thing and to work her resort for a summer, and things like go crazy, and it's really good. Like it's actually really interesting. It's not as like high stakes as I would want it to be, but like for it being a YA thriller, I did enjoy it, and I would read more of her books, to be so honest with you, if they are like this. I also listened to the audiobook. I found that really good as well. But I also more recently read Survive the Night by Riley Sager, one of my favorite thrillers by him. I think this is actually my favorite thriller by him so far. I've read Lock Every Door, and I've read The House Across the Lake, and I think that's it for his books that I've read. Loved this book. Okay, you're following this girl. She is living in her college dorm, and there's like these string of murders that are happening, so obviously they think it's like a serial killer. She ends up getting this ride from this dude, and it turns out to be real creepy because she has no idea who this dude is. She doesn't know him, never met him before, but she's desperate to get away from her college, and so she ends up leaving and going with him. There are elements to this story that I would never have thought would be in a thriller that I genuinely loved and I enjoyed so much. I would recommend this to anyone and everyone. I just love Riley Sager's voice. The way that he writes is just so interesting to me, because I don't think I've actually read a book of his that have followed a dude. Like it's not normal to have a guy write thrillers and they're all like, all the main characters are women. Like it's interesting to me. I wouldn't say that this book creeped me out, but I will say got me like having a little bit of anxiety, and I found myself like wanting to go back to it. Like it's very rare that I read a book that when I'm not reading, all I want to go do is go home and read it, or just like put what I'm doing down to go read it. This book gave me that feeling, which could mean that it's a 5-star. I'm settling on a 4.75 for right now. If I keep thinking about these characters, then I will bump it up to a 5-star, but just know that like either way, I would recommend this book to literally everyone because I enjoyed it that much. Last but not least, I actually finished this book yesterday. Finley Donovan Is Killing It by Ellie Casamano, and I loved this book. Listen, first of all, the way that this book ended, immediately want to jump into the second one. I do think I own the second book. No, because like I need to check on that. Hey, so that was the biggest disappointment of my life. I don't think I own it. Honestly, whatever. This series is on Kindle Unlimited, so I'm gonna read it anyways, but don't even know why. God, I need to stop getting sidetracked so often. This book was actually so fun. I don't know about a rating yet. I think I would probably rate it like a 3.75 to maybe 4-star for this, just because like it took me a minute to get through it, and that wasn't necessarily the fault of the book. I think I just was in and out of reading slumps. I was reading other things and I just kind of generally just put it down. It's very hard for me to stick to one book and one book only, but I want to do like a week of reading where I'm not allowed to read multiple books. That actually is such a good idea. I think I'm gonna start that today. This is following Finley Donovan, who is a crime thriller author, and she's writing under her pseudonym. She's like out of the spotlight. She's not really doing too well in terms of like her author career. Like she's not making a ton of money. She has 2 kids. She's recently divorced, and she ends up getting caught up in this like murder for hire scheme basically, and it's so fun. Her and her babysitter, like I love her babysitter as a character. She just brings so much needed comedic relief to the story. Overall, this book is so fun, so easy to get through. Like I had maybe 80 pages to read yesterday and I binged the last 80 pages. Like I didn't realize I was reading 80 pages until I looked up and all of a sudden I had read 80 pages. I don't know about if I'll read like the whole series because I feel like the idea of it will get kind of like played out after a while, but I do see myself reading at least the next couple of books in the series. But they're just fun, like cozy mysteries. Fairly, okay, I don't want to say low stakes because the stakes aren't necessarily low, but like they don't feel like they're super high, so they're not anxiety inducing, but it is really fun, so I would recommend it to everyone. And then the 2 books that I did start in, well actually I started way more than this, but we're not going to talk about them because I didn't like read enough of them to actually like say I truly started them. I started the Book of Accidents by Chuck Wendig, and I also started The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This was a restart. I had to restart this book because I want to get series read off of my shelves, and I know Jennifer Lynn Barnes has writing that's super easy to get through. I just don't know if I'm necessarily like, I don't know, I have not read enough of it to actually formulate an opinion, so I'm not going to. I just don't know if I'm going to love that book, I guess is the point. And then also I'm like almost 200 pages into the Book of Accidents, which is a horror. It's very much giving like literary fiction but horror, which makes sense because it is a literary horror. It's about this guy who moves his family into his childhood home where he was abused. His father was terrible. This is not the kind of book, listen, I don't get scared by like books very often. This isn't the kind of book that I wouldn't read at night. I don't think it would just give me the heebie-jeebies. So like it is doing its job, I will say that. Okay, now we'll get into the books that I read from April through June. Okay, these truly are going to be in no particular order. I don't have any kind of organization when it comes to these. I'm just going to kind of rapid fire through them. First book is Sunday Morning by Joliejentzen. This book was actually really fun. Essentially, you're following a girl who is a preacher's daughter, and she has this boyfriend who like she's really only with for family connections. And then her boyfriend's older brother is like this hot dude who just got back from the army. He's like this bad boy, and she ends up falling in love with him, and it's like this big whole thing. She loves music, he loves music, and so he kind of like introduces her to the music scene and stuff like that. Like I had fun with it. By the end of it, I was way more attached than I originally thought I was, so I will give Miss Joliejentzen that. This was my first book of hers that I had read, and I think this is actually a trilogy. Do I see myself picking up the trilogy or like continuing on with the trilogy? At some point, maybe. It's not like a high priority for me though. I'd rate it at this point in time like a 3-star. It's not bad. I would recommend it. The audiobook was pretty good. There were some parts of this book where I was like, ooh, that's cringy. Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. And then other parts where I was like, oh, that's super sweet. So I don't have a ton to say about it. Like it was fun, but it wasn't like groundbreaking or anything like that, I guess, if that makes sense. And then we have Untouched by Dakota Willenick. Listen, this book was not what I expected it to be. So I randomly got this book a while ago on Stuff Your Kindle Day. Didn't really think too much of it. I picked it up because I was just like, I want to start getting through the books that are on my Kindle. I read the first chapter, and the first chapter was giving think like the essence of Stevie Nicks, but also what's that one season of American Horror Story where like the character was based off of Stevie Nicks, and it's very like swamp, like witchy vibes. I think it's Coven. I think that would have to be. Anyways, that's kind of like the vibes the first chapter was giving me, and then like the next chapter after that was like, oh, we're at a summer camp. No witchy vibes whatsoever. It's just a normal summer camp romance. Didn't necessarily love that. I would probably rate like a 2.75 now, just because like, I don't know. It just wasn't really giving anything, to be honest with you. It was just so focused on their relationship. I think that's what it was. This book was just so wholly focused on the relationship between the FMC and the MMC. And you didn't really get anything else other than that, except for that first chapter. And then it was just like, oh, we're thrown into this like relationship with 2 borderline kids. They're like just out of high school, or no, they're just out of college, I think. So they're not necessarily children, but they also act like it. I don't know, it was interesting. And then we have My Summer Darlings by May Cobb. I actually DNF'd this, to be so honest with you, simply because of the vibe that it gave me. Like, it gave me icky feelings inside, and I just didn't want to read it anymore, so I put it down, and I will not be picking it back up. I'll probably end up like selling it on my Pango or something like that. It's about this guy who moves into this, I think it's in Texas. Yeah, East Texas town, whatever. And you're following a group of housewives who, one's divorced, the other have husbands and children and all that stuff. Like, they're all like in their at least late 30s, early 40s, something like that. He ends up having a secret relationship with all of them, and it just makes it so creepy. And there's also like a murder mystery type deal, so you're trying to figure out like who did it, and then you figure out who. I don't know, I didn't like it, to be honest with you. I think I stopped like halfway through and I was like, okay, I'm done with this book. It just, like I said, it was icky vibes. It made me feel bad. Like, every time I finished a session of reading it, I just would feel gross, and so I put it down. I mean, maybe I think that's probably what the author intended. I just don't like feeling like that, so I typically won't read books like that. So I think it's more of a preference thing than anything else. Then I also read The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walther. This book was fun. It wasn't my favorite thing. I think if I had read this book when I was a little bit younger, maybe like 19, I probably really would have enjoyed it. This is very, very much giving summer vibes. It's very cute. It's very fun. It's very reminiscent of like, not childhood summers, but like teenage summers where like first love and all of that stuff. So I'll give it its flowers for that. I just wasn't super invested. Granted, I was in the middle of a thyroid, like a hormone flare-up, whatever, and so I was not having a good time while I was reading this. It was also first day of my period. Really was not having a good day. So it could have been the situation, not necessarily the book. I would recommend it though. You're following this girl who it's her first family vacation back to Martha's Vineyard since losing her sister. Obviously there's like a lot of grief that goes into that, and she's there for a wedding. She ends up meeting one of the groomsmen who's around her age, and like they start having a relationship, and it's really sweet. It's really cute. It's just very much giving like teenage summer, to be so honest with you. Like, they have a family game of assassin that's really fun. But yeah, you can usually count on K.L. Walther for like a fun, reminiscent type of teenage romance that might have like some deeper, obviously like this book deals with grief. I also read What Happens at Midnight as well by her, and I really enjoyed that book as well, so I'm not mad at it. Speaking of being mad at things, The Grace Year by Kim Liggett, I don't know how you say her last name. This book pissed me off. So simply put, so simply. I, to be honest with you, hated this book. No, I didn't hate it. I really enjoyed it, and then I hated it. Here's why, okay? This book is very much in the vein of, not The Lost Boys. Oh my gosh. They go on an island and it's like a bunch of boys, and it just like descends into madness and they end up like killing each other. That book is reminiscent of this. And then I would also say like The Handmaid's Tale. It's a mix of those two. So all these girls, they go into their grace year right after their 16th birthday, and it's basically like these people are of the belief that like girls, or once you turn 16, you come into your magic, and once you turn 16, it's a way for you to go and like burn off all your magic that year. It's just supposed to make you like more appealing to men for them to want to marry you, so they end up like picking who they want to marry from all these girls, and the girls really have no say in it. It's just like they kind of try to like, up until they're 16, they try to flirt with whoever they want to get married to, and they hope that these boys pick them. It was so like, I enjoyed the beginning of it because I enjoyed the premise of it, and I enjoyed where it was going, and then where it went, I did not like it. In fact, I actually hated it. And I think if I had read this book in my prime of reading like dystopian YA whatever, I would have loved this book and I would have eaten it up, and it would have kept me up for like months. Not as a 25-year-old. I didn't enjoy it. Then I also read The Overtime Kiss by Lauren Blakely. To be honest with you, Lauren Blakely is a really solid bet if you're just wanting books that are spicy, romance, fun. You have a little bit maybe of like something deeper going on with some of the characters, but for the most part, it's just a fun romance. This is a single dad nanny romance. He is so sweet, so endearing, but also... Then I also read People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I enjoyed this book a little. So here's the thing. I got like over halfway, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna DNF this book, which, if you know, that's crazy because I love Emily Henry. I love Beach Read. That's one of my favorite romance books of all time. I started this book right after Beach Read, decided that I did not want to continue with it. I put it down because it was just boring to me. Like, I did not like Poppy because she was just irritating. I didn't like her as a character. I really liked Alex. He was very upfront with his feelings, and Poppy was very much a commitment phobe, and because I'm opposite of that, I didn't understand it. And so being in her point of view so much, the whole book actually, it pissed me off to no end because I'm like, this dude is actually trying to be there for you and like loves you, and you're just being really mean about it. She ended up redeeming herself for me. I ended up liking her more by the end, so I'm happy that I finished it, but this was one that I had to listen to in order to finish. You're following Alex and Poppy is a like travel blogger. She works with this big agency. Her and Alex go on vacations every summer. They've done it for a really long time, except by the time you pick up the book, they haven't gone in 2 years, and they really haven't spoken much in 2 years, if at all. And she ends up reaching out to him because she misses him so much and is like, hey, would you go on this trip with me? And they end up going on this trip, and it brings back a lot of old memories and stuff like that. And it's very like Emily Henry. Don't get me wrong, it's just I didn't love this book. 3.75 to maybe 4, but that's just probably because it's Emily Henry, but like at the same time I didn't love it. Okay, I feel like I said I was gonna rapid fire and then I didn't end up rapid fire, so we're actually going to rapid fire through the rest of these. Stolen Air by Holly Black. I enjoyed it. I did not enjoy the fact that this is about Oak, and when I read the Cruel Prince trilogy, Oak was a child, and now all of a sudden I'm supposed to believe he's an adult. He's not an adult, he's 17, but like still, that much of an age jump to me was crazy, and I could not see him as an MMC, but I still enjoyed it because I love Holly Black's writing. So I probably will read the second one. It took a little bit for me, okay? 4-star. The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I feel like these kinds of romances have a separate compartment in my head in which I don't think too deeply about because the whole point is the romance. I do love the women in STEM aspect. I do love how easy to read and how fun that these books are. I just don't have a ton of thoughts on them, and I feel bad about that, but like I'd probably rate like a 4-star just for like the fun aspect. She's a PhD candidate. He is a professor, not her professor, but like still kind of close enough. He's very grumpy. She's very much not. It's very Ali Hazelwood coded. It's very Galaxy Leggings coded. Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Something about this book and everyone talking about how the Rysand mentions were making it like hard to read and all of that. I actually do understand that because there were entirely too many pop culture references in this book for my taste. I still would probably rate it like a 4-star because I did have a lot of fun with it. I did like the characters. I feel like it's very hard to pull off a book where they're doing long distance, and so you don't get a ton of situations where the characters are together, but I feel like it made it so much better, I guess, in my opinion, and I did enjoy it. Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicerelli. I'm gonna be so honest with you. I am very angry at the publishing industry because I don't think this is necessarily on the authors, because I've heard a lot of authors have had to like either age up or age down their characters depending on what the publishers want. So I'm not angry at the author for this. But why are we putting entire sex scenes in young adult books marketed to young adults? I looked on Goodreads because whenever I did my review for Heartless Hunter, I thought these were adult books. I thought these were at the very least new adult. And then I went on Goodreads after reading this one to like do my review and everything, and it said young adult. That is insane to me, and I truly do not like that, because me reading young adult at 13, I was not looking for sex in books. I was just looking for a fun book. You know what I'm saying? And so like, I feel like it definitely breaks that trust, because it's like now I don't trust that like young adult books are actually going to not have sex in them. Like new adult, whatever, I truly do not care, but it's young adult that I do get very like about. And there were entire scenes in this book where I was like, what the ever loving hell do you mean this is young adult? And like the first book, the reason why I thought the first book was adult was because the whole premise, or like the whole job of the FMC in the first book, was to basically be a prostitute. Like her job was to sleep with men. As a young adult, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like I actually don't care if that's in an adult book. I enjoyed Heartless Hunter. Like I really liked it. And I really liked Rebel Witch as an adult book. That's where I'm gonna stand with that. I obviously can't say anything about this because it's the second book in the duology or the duet, whatever. I did enjoy it, and I do see myself going back and rereading these books, but like it genuinely pains me, and it makes me so angry to know that like these books are young adult. Okay. Get out of my face. Daydream by Hannah Grace. I really did not think much about this book. I didn't love it, to be honest with you. I liked Wildfire way, way, way more. I just didn't necessarily love Henry and Hallie together. I had a really good time with it at the beginning, but then like once it got like towards the end, I think maybe it was just like too long for my attention span for like a romance book, which I actually don't even think the book was that long. Oh, it was over 400 pages. So like it was a good size. Not my favorite. Probably rated like a 3-star. Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. Everything that they say about this book is true. The beginning of this book, insane. Middle of this book, crazy. Ending of this book, more insane. Okay? I didn't necessarily love the way that the plot twist went with this book, but it was still a really, really good time. Kept me on my toes. I had a fun time with it. The audiobook is really, really good. If you're looking for a fast-paced thriller that like will quite literally keep you like eyes open, glued to the page, that is going to be this one. I don't want to say a ton about what it's about, but I will say the beginning premise is you're following a kidnapped child. And from there, just quite literally gets crazier. So I would recommend it to everyone. Probably like a 4-star read for me. Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. Reading this in hindsight of what happened to me right after I read this book, hey, kind of sucks. I'd probably rate this like a 3.5 star. I had a good time with it. You're following this girl who has a one-night stand. She ends up getting pregnant from it. And also following her friend Willow, who is actively going through infertility struggles, which I talked about this. Actually, I don't think that video will ever see the light of day because that was not a good time in my life. I might end up posting it, who knows. But her friend Willa is going through infertility, and she, like, obviously the main character, she had gotten pregnant without trying to, and it's this big like life adjustment. It was a very sweet and romantic read. The MMC is just such a painfully good guy. You kind of knew that as soon as you met him. Like, it was just good vibes, and it was a fun read. I enjoyed it. Then I also listened to Sky Shade by Alex Astor. I feel like my enjoyment for the series has gone down drastically, not necessarily because of this book, but it was before this book. Like, I enjoyed Lightlark and Nightbane. I actually really enjoyed those 2 books, but I think it was because I had not read a ton of fantasy in a long time. I think it had been like a year since I had picked up a fantasy book once I picked up Lightlark. And so obviously I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Like, I love it so much. Another series, and I'm like, this should not be marketed as a young adult given what was happening, especially with quite a few of the scenes that happened in here. I'm like, hey, what in what world is this young adult? Aside from that, I won't go on that rant again. I had no interest in picking this book up physically, so I just did the audiobook, and I don't know if I'm going to continue on with the series, to be honest with you. I might have to reread Lightlark and Nightbane in order for me to like get excited about the series again. I just don't see myself like truly enjoying that book. It's probably a 3-star for me. Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. I loved this book. That was the word that I was looking for earlier. This redeemed One Dark Window for me. In fact, I want to go back and reread One Dark Window to see if it was just a matter of I was not in the fantasy mood when I read that book, because if you all remember, I did not like it. I had beef with One Dark Window. I truly did not like it. I think it also was an issue with like marketing, and not from the publishers or the author or anything like that, but from Book Talk. It was kind of like what happened with the Cruel Prince trilogy, where like I went into One Dark Window expecting a romantasy, and then there was barely any romance, and the romance that was in it, it irritated me. And so I was like, what is this? Like, it wasn't what I was expecting. I didn't necessarily love it. It was kind of confusing to me, so I didn't like it. This book, now, after like having known what to expect after One Dark Window, I think I was way more open to the idea of it, and I ended up loving it. So I will probably end up going back and rereading One Dark Window is what I'm saying. I even like was annotating it because I liked it so much. So that should tell you something. Okay, I promise we're getting on the last stack now, okay? The Conditions of Whale by Jessa Hastings. Did not fully finish this. I actually DNF'd it like 20 pages in because it just was not, I was not in the right headspace to read it. I was going through a lot physically, mentally, whatever. And so I put it down. But I've gotten a ton of questions asking if I have read this book. I have not. I needed to put it down for my sake. I don't know. It's just something about Jessa Hastings' writing. It gets me very, very emotional. And I was not in the mind frame to be emotional. So I physically could not read it. So that's why. The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Very much enjoyed this. This was the craziest vampire book that I've ever read because it did not follow any of the conventional like vampire. It followed a couple of the conventional vampire rules, but like how everything played out was not conventional at all, and I feel like Grady Hendrix does a really, really good job at writing intensely weird stories, and I love him for that. I will go back and read more of his books. We're following a group of Southern mothers. They're set in Charleston. Weird guy comes in. Immediately, like, some people are off put by him, some people are infatuated with him, and things just turn out to kind of get crazy and crazier from there. Really loved this. The Tenant by Frida McFadden. I also want to put in, I did start The Crash by her. I put it down. It did not feel like a Frida McFadden book to me. Like, the writing felt so juvenile. I hated it. I literally got like 20 pages in and I was like, I physically can't read this. It literally felt like it was not Frida. And like, normally I can read through a Frida book. Like, it's not my first choice for a thriller, but that felt bad. So I put that down. Then we have The Tenant by her. This book pissed me off point blank, and I think it's because I'm much more of a confrontational person than what these characters gave, because of a lot of the situations that happened to me that happened in this book, I would actually, we'd come to fisticuffs. You know what I mean? Like, I would be fighting. You're following this couple who, I think they're engaged or something like that. They're not having a good time. They're not at a great spot in their relationship, and they're also broke. And so they end up bringing in a tenant and to live with them because they need the extra money, and things just end up going Frida McFadden. They end up going Frida McFadden. It was interesting. I'd probably rate it like a 2.75 star. It was just like the situations that happened pissed me off more than they really like thrilled me, I guess, if that makes sense. I just, by the end of it, I was like, okay, I'm tired of this. Like, I want this to be over. One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. Simply put, I didn't like anybody. I didn't like any of these characters. We're following a group of students. They go into detention and somebody ends up dying, and then it's like obvious that it's one of the people that were in detention, and you're trying to figure out who, and like there's a bunch of secrets and all of this stuff that happens, and it's crazy. I didn't like it because I didn't like the characters. It felt like it was just drama, and not even like in a good way, I guess, if that makes sense. What Lies in the Woods by Kate Ellis Marshall. Loved this book. A very whimsical type thriller, which is an interesting way to like write. I've never read a thriller that felt like a fairy tale almost, but the way that this was written and the way that the characters are written and talked about and portrayed, it feels, at least for the first half, very, very whimsical, and I really enjoyed that aspect. Actually, it was very surprising, but it was very different from what I had read before. I will be going and reading more of her books. I have A Killing Cold by the same author, so I'm really excited to read that once it does get cold. But this is following a group of 3 girls who go through this like very traumatic event. One of the girls gets attacked like really, really badly, and the other 2 were there like watching. It was just really, it was a bad time for all 3 of them. Like the guy that did it was convicted, he's in jail, and he ends up dying. And so it's like this big thing for the 3 of them, and they all come back together, and then like secrets are unfolding, and it's creepy and it's crazy and it's unputdownable, to be so honest with you. This book was not very long. I think it was a little over 300 pages, and it flew by so quickly for me, so I would recommend it. Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I went through like a whole spiel on this book during reading 7 romance books in 7 days video. If you guys want to check that out, I did read this for that. I loved it. I had so much fun. Brianna irritated me because of her lack of commitment, but Jacob was a green flag all the way. Hyper anxiety. So like a lot of the situations that he was in with Brianna thought he was being mean to her, and really he was just literally trying to survive these situations with her. I've talked about this book quite a bit actually, so I'm not going to talk about it, like I said, a ton. I would recommend it though. I pleasantly enjoyed that book. The Romcomers by Catherine Center. I've also talked about this book a ton, so I'm not going to go into too much depth with it. You're following a girl who is a screenwriter. She's an aspiring screenwriter, and she ends up getting the chance to work with this like legendary screenwriter named Charlie Yates, and it's like the person who she looks up to the most in terms of like screenwriting and whatever, and it turns out he's kind of a doucher and he's mean to her, but the way that it plays out is so good, and I love Catherine Center's writing. She writes like a literary fiction type vibe, I guess, if that makes sense. It's very much a Catherine Center book. It's through and through. It's so easy to read. I got through this book so quickly. I loved every single second of it, and I would recommend it to every single person ever. One of my favorite reads this year. Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This falls into the Why Is There Sex in a Young Adult book. I actually ended up DNFing this book with 20 pages to go because I thoroughly disagreed with what was happening. I just didn't like it. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, I also had DNF'd it like 3 or 4 times, and I had just kept trying to pick it up because I knew mutuals of mine that like really loved it, and I could not get past it. So, Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney, also one of my favorites of this year, but I also don't know if I could categorize it as one of my favorites of this year. I posted a video talking about my favorite books of this year so far, and this was on that list. This book was crazy insane. I don't want to tell you what this book is about because I feel like you need to go into it fairly blind. I'll tell you it's about this dude who's an author whose wife goes missing a year prior and he has writer's block. That's all I'll tell you. It sounds very lackluster, but it's not, okay? It is crazy. Bad Summer People by Emma Rosenblum. This book, simply put, was about bad people doing bad things and you're following along with them for the summer. That's it. Kind of also a murder mystery. That's it. I enjoyed it a lot, actually. I'd probably rate it like a 4-star. Like, there was no redeemable person in this book, but it was also really fun just to like read about, I guess, because you're just reading about rich people doing bad things. And it was interesting. One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. This redeemed my love for Carly Fortune, okay? I loved Every Summer After. The next 2 books I loved less and less. I think the last book of hers that I read, I think it was This Summer Will Be Different. I ended up rating it like a 2 or a 3-star. Did not enjoy it. Had no idea this book followed the brother from Every Summer After because I read Every Summer After when it came out like 2 years ago. And so I really I did make the connection, and I was wondering why Barry's Bay sounded so familiar. It's because it's from the first book. You're following Charlie and Alice. Her grandmother ends up needing hip surgery, and her grandmother's the one that has a place on the island. She needs a vacation. Grandma needs like a resting period time or whatever, and she needs someone to help take care of her. So they both go to Barry's Bay to spend the summer on the island for like vacation purposes. There she ends up meeting Charlie. And Charlie was a guy that she had seen growing up. She had always wanted to like introduce herself to him and his friend group, but like she never did. And they ended up meeting again as adults during this like little vacation period. And it was really good. It was actually really good. You can really tell that Carly Fortune's been working on her writing because of just like the prose. I feel like in my opinion, it got better. One thing I did not necessarily love was one of the dynamics in this book is not my favorite dynamic. I prefer more of like a sweet kind of romance. And while this was that, it also wasn't, I guess, if that makes any kind of sense. The Perfect Couple by Ellen Hildebrand. I would recommend this book if you're wanting a crazy thriller. Okay, I wouldn't say crazy. I would say that like Ellen Hildebrand does a really good job of writing a ton of characters very well. But the way that the story wrapped up was interesting and I had a lot of fun with it. I will be reading more Ellen Hildebrand. This is very much just like Rich Wine Aunt Summer, and it was good. The Only Survivors by Megan Miranda. Had a lot of fun with this. We're following a group of people who, when they were in high school, they survived this like traumatic experiment. They survived this tragic accident. There's only like a small group of them that were left, and then they end up kind of like dying, a couple of them. It turns into this whole thing. It's like a murder mystery type. On the Rocks by Candy Steiner. I also read this for my 7 romance book in 7 days, so I'm not going to talk a ton about it. I really enjoyed it though. Cowboy, loved it. Heartless by Elsie Silver. Also read this for that same video. Loved it. Had so much fun with it. This made me want to read the rest of the Chestnut Spring series, I will tell you that. And then last but not least, I also at some point reread City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. Loved it. Obviously this book is annotated to filth. I will forever love this series and no one can take that away from me. Okay, cool. Those were all the books that I read since April. There's a ton, I know, but I'm not gonna hold you for too much longer because I feel like this was an hour long that I'd been talking. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for watching. What was your favorite book that you read in July? Actually, give me your favorite book that you read in all of the months if you can remember that far. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys want to find my face on any other place on the internet, as always, check all the links in my description. But other than that, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.